What happens when exhaustion leads to an encounter that changes everything? A single mother's simple mistake on the subway becomes the beginning of a story that will leave you breathless. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss our incredible stories. The fluorescent lights of the subway car flickered intermittently, casting harsh shadows across Maya Chen's tired face. At 26, she looked older than her years. Dark circles under her brown eyes told the story of countless sleepless nights. And her once pristine nurse scrubs now bore the stains of a 14-hour shift at St. Mary's Hospital. Baby Emma, just 8 months old, had finally stopped crying after what felt like an eternity. The infant was nestled against Maya's chest in a worn baby carrier, her tiny fists clutched around her mother's finger. Maya's arms ached from the weight, but she didn't dare adjust her position and risk waking her daughter. The 11:47 p.m. train from Manhattan to Queens was nearly empty. Just a few late-night workers, a homeless man sleeping across 3 seats, and a figure in an expensive black coat sitting 2 rows ahead. Maya barely registered the other passengers. Her world had narrowed to the rhythm of the train and the precious weight of her sleeping child. Her phone buzzed with a text from her landlord. Rent is 3 days late. Need payment by Friday, or we discuss other arrangements. Maya's stomach clenched. After paying for Emma's daycare, groceries, and her mother's medication, there was barely enough left for rent. The double shifts at the hospital helped, but it was never quite enough. She closed her eyes, feeling the familiar burn of tears she couldn't afford to shed. The train swayed gently as it rounded a curve, and Maya felt her eyelids growing heavy. She fought against the exhaustion, knowing she needed to stay alert, but her body was betraying her. The warmth of the train car, combined with the rhythmic clacking of wheels on tracks, was like a lullaby she couldn't resist. Just for a moment, she told herself. Just until the next stop. Her head began to nod, and despite her best efforts, Maya felt herself drifting. The stress of the day, the weight of her responsibilities, and the bone-deep tiredness that had become her constant companion finally overwhelmed her defenses. Without realizing it, her head tilted to the side, coming to rest against something solid and warm. In her semi-conscious state, she registered the faint scent of expensive cologne and the soft texture of what felt like cashmere. But exhaustion pulled her deeper into sleep. The man whose shoulder had become her pillow didn't move. Alessandro Alex Romano, 32 years old and one of the most feared men in New York's underworld, sat perfectly still as the young woman slept against him. His steel-gray eyes, which had seen too much violence and betrayal, softened as he looked down at her peaceful face. Alex had been returning from a meeting that had ended with blood on his hands. Literally. The rival family that had been encroaching on his territory would think twice before crossing the Romano name again. He'd changed his shirt and washed the evidence away, but the weight of his actions still sat heavy on his shoulders. He should have moved. Should have woken her up or shifted to another seat. In his world, unexpected contact meant potential threats, and his bodyguards, positioned strategically throughout the car, were already reaching for their weapons. But something about the woman's vulnerability, the way she held her baby with such fierce protectiveness even in sleep, made him raise a subtle hand to signal his men to stand down. There was something pure about this moment, something that reminded him of a life he'd never had the chance to live. The baby stirred slightly, making a soft cooing sound, and Alex found himself studying the infant's features. She had her mother's delicate bone structure but lighter hair that caught the train's fluorescent lights. When the baby's eyes fluttered open, revealing bright blue irises, Alex felt something shift in his chest, an unfamiliar warmth that had nothing to do with the expensive whiskey he'd consumed earlier. Emma looked up at him with the curious, unafraid gaze that only babies possessed. She didn't see the scars on his knuckles or the hardness in his eyes that made grown men tremble. She saw only a face, and apparently decided it was worth a smile. That smile hit Alex like a physical blow. In his 32 years, he'd built an empire through fear and respect, had commanded loyalty through strength and ruthlessness. But this tiny human's innocent smile cracked something open inside him that he'd thought was permanently sealed. The train began to slow as it approached the next station, and Maya stirred against his shoulder. Alex found himself hoping she wouldn't wake up yet, wouldn't break this strange spell that had settled over them. For just a few more minutes, he wanted to exist in this bubble where he wasn't the Romano heir, where blood didn't stain his hands, where a baby could smile at him without knowing what he was capable of. But reality had a way of intruding, and as the train came to a complete stop, Maya's eyes fluttered open. Maya's consciousness returned slowly, like surfacing from deep water. The first thing she registered was warmth, not the artificial heat of the subway car, but something more personal, more intimate. The second thing was the scent. Expensive cologne mixed with something distinctly masculine that made her feel inexplicably safe. Her eyes opened to find herself looking up at a face that belonged in a Renaissance painting. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and eyes the color of storm clouds. For a moment, she was too disoriented to feel embarrassed. The man was strikingly handsome, but there was something else about him, something that made her pulse quicken with an emotion she couldn't quite name. "I'm so sorry," Maya whispered, quickly straightening and immediately missing the warmth of his shoulder. "I didn't mean to. I must have fallen asleep." "I'm sorry." Alex studied her face as she apologized, noting the genuine distress in her expression. Most people who discovered they'd been in contact with him reacted with fear once they learned his identity. Her concerns seemed to be purely about the social impropriety of falling asleep on a stranger. "No need to apologize," he said, his voice carrying a slight Italian accent that spoke of old-world heritage. "You looked like you needed the rest." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. She must look terrible, exhausted, disheveled, probably with drool on her chin. "It's been a long day," she said, adjusting Emma in her carrier. "Actually, a long few months." That's when she noticed that Alex's attention had shifted to Emma, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. He was looking at her daughter with something that went beyond casual interest. There was a tenderness there that seemed at odds with his expensive clothes and the aura of controlled power that surrounded him. "She's beautiful," Alex said softly, and Maya was surprised by the genuine warmth in his voice. "How old?" "8 months," Maya replied, instinctively protective but finding herself oddly comfortable with this stranger's attention to her daughter. "Her name is Emma." "Emma," Alex repeated, and the way he said it made Maya's heart skip. A strong name. The train lurched back into motion and Maya realized she'd missed her stop. Panic fluttered in her chest. She couldn't afford a taxi from the next station, and Emma needed to be fed and changed soon. "Damn," she muttered under her breath, then immediately looked apologetic. "Sorry, I just missed my stop. Where were you headed?" Alex asked, and something in his tone made her look at him more carefully. There was an authority in his voice that suggested he was used to solving problems, used to being in control. "Astoria," Maya said hesitantly. "But it's fine, I'll have my driver take you home," Alex said, pulling out his phone. "It's the least I can do after providing such an uncomfortable pillow." Maya's eyes widened. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly. I mean, you don't even know me and I couldn't impose." "You're not imposing," Alex said firmly. "And you're traveling with a baby at midnight. Let me help." There was something in his tone that brooked no argument, but also something that made Maya feel genuinely cared for rather than patronized. Still, accepting rides from strangers went against every safety rule she'd ever learned. "I appreciate the offer, but I really can't." Emma chose that moment to wake up fully and immediately began to cry, the kind of tired, hungry cry that Maya knew would only get worse. The sound seemed to galvanize Alex in a way that surprised them both. "Here," he said, extending his arms toward the baby. "May I?" Maya hesitated. She'd never let a stranger hold Emma, but something about this man's calm confidence made her trust him in a way that defied logic. Slowly, she lifted Emma from the carrier and placed her in Alex's arms. The transformation was immediate and startling. Alex held Emma with the natural ease of someone who'd done this before, supporting her head perfectly and adjusting his hold until she was comfortable. More surprisingly, Emma stopped crying almost immediately. looking up at Alex with the same curious interest she'd shown earlier. "There we go." "Beautiful," Alex murmured to Emma, his voice taking on a gentleness that made Maya's chest tighten. "Much better, isn't it?" Maya watched in amazement as her daughter, who usually cried for at least 20 minutes when she woke up hungry, settled contentedly in this stranger's arms. Emma even made a small, happy sound and reached up to touch Alex's face with her tiny hand. "She likes you," Maya said softly, unable to hide her surprise. Alex looked down at Emma with an expression that made Maya's heart race. "The feeling is mutual," he said, and then, so quietly that Maya almost missed it, he added, "Aren't you perfect, little one? Just perfect." The way he said it, the tenderness in his voice, made something shift in Maya's chest. This wasn't just politeness or casual interest. This man was genuinely moved by her daughter, and Emma was responding to him in a way she'd never responded to anyone except Maya herself. "What's your name?" Maya asked suddenly, realizing she'd been sitting here letting a complete stranger hold her baby without even knowing what to call him. Alex looked up from Emma, and for a moment, Maya saw something flicker across his face, a hesitation that seemed out of character for someone who carried himself with such confidence. "Alex," he said finally. "Alex Romano." The name meant nothing to Maya, but she noticed the way his bodyguards, and she was beginning to realize that's what the other men in the car were, straightened slightly when he said it. "I'm Maya," she said. "Maya Chen." "Maya," Alex repeated, the same way he'd said Emma's name, like he was tasting it. "It suits you." The train was slowing again, approaching the next station, and Maya knew she needed to make a decision. Every rational part of her mind was screaming warnings about accepting help from a stranger, especially one who traveled with what appeared to be security detail. But Emma was content in his arms, and Maya was so tired she could barely think straight. And there was something about Alex Romano that made her feel safer than she had in months. "If you're sure it's not too much trouble," she said quietly, "I would appreciate the ride." Alex's smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. "It's no trouble at all," he said, then looked down at Emma. "Is it, sweetheart? We're going to take you and your mama home." As the train pulled into the station, Maya gathered her things with one hand while Alex continued to hold Emma with practiced ease. She couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, this chance encounter, was going to change everything. She just had no idea how right she was. Alex's car was not what Maya had expected. Instead of the flashy sports car she might have imagined for someone who could afford a personal driver, it was a sleek black sedan with tinted windows, expensive but understated. The driver, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a slight Italian accent, introduced himself as Giuseppe and treated Emma with the gentle familiarity of a grandfather. "Beautiful bambina," Giuseppe said, as he held the door open for them. "She looks like her mama, no?" Maya felt herself blushing as she slid into the leather interior, Alex settling beside her with Emma still contentedly in his arms. The baby had shown no inclination to return to her mother, seeming perfectly happy to stay with Alex, which was both touching and slightly concerning. Emma was usually shy with strangers. "Where to, boss?" Giuseppe asked as he got behind the wheel. "Astoria," Alex said, then looked at Maya. "What's the address?" Maya gave him her street address, acutely aware of how modest her neighborhood would seem to someone who clearly lived in a different world. The car was immaculate, with the kind of attention to detail that spoke of serious money, and Alex's clothes, now that she could see them properly in the car's interior lighting, were obviously expensive. "So what do you do, Alex?" Maya asked as they pulled away from the station, trying to make conversation and understand more about this man who was being so kind to her and Emma. Alex was quiet for a moment, his attention seemingly focused on Emma, who was playing with the buttons on his coat. "I'm in business," he said finally. "Import, export mostly." It was a vague answer, and Maya sensed there was more to it, but she didn't push. Everyone was entitled to their privacy, and he was doing her an enormous favor. "What about you?" Alex asked. "Besides being a mother, which is clearly a full-time job." "I'm a nurse," Maya said. "At St. Mary's Hospital. I work mostly night shifts because the pay is better, and it means I can be with Emma during the day. Alex looked up from Emma to study Maya's face. That must be exhausting. It is, Maya admitted, surprised by her own honesty. But we manage. Emma's worth it. No family to help? Alex asked gently. Maya's expression tightened slightly. My mom helps when she can, but she's dealing with her own health issues. And Emma's father, she trailed off, not wanting to get into the painful details of how David had walked out the moment she'd told him she was pregnant. He's not in the picture, Alex said. And it wasn't a question. No, Maya said quietly. It's just us. Alex looked down at Emma, who had fallen asleep again in his arms, her tiny hand still clutching his coat button. His loss, he said, and there was something in his voice that made Maya look at him sharply. You're good with babies, Maya observed. Do you have children? Alex's expression darkened slightly. No, he said. No children. There was a finality in his tone that suggested the topic was closed, but Maya caught something else, a longing that he couldn't quite hide. She wondered about his story, about what had put that look in his eyes when he held Emma. They rode in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights streaming past the windows. Maya found herself studying Alex's profile, noting the way his jaw tensed occasionally, as if he was thinking about something unpleasant. There was a hardness to him that spoke of difficult experiences, but when he looked at Emma, that hardness melted away completely. Can I ask you something? Maya said suddenly. Alex turned to look at her. Of course. Why are you being so kind to us? I mean, I'm grateful, but you don't know us. For all you know, I could be... You could be what? Alex asked, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. A dangerous criminal mastermind traveling with her infant accomplice? Maya laughed despite herself. When you put it like that, it does sound ridiculous. You fell asleep on my shoulder because you were exhausted from working to take care of your daughter, Alex said seriously. You apologized for something that wasn't your fault, and you're worried about imposing on someone who offered to help. You're not dangerous, Maya. You're just tired. The way he said her name made her stomach flutter. There was something about Alex Romano that drew her in, despite all the warning bells that should have been going off in her head. He was clearly wealthy, clearly powerful, and clearly living in a world very different from hers. But when he held Emma, when he looked at Maya with those storm-gray eyes, she felt something she hadn't felt since before Emma was born. She felt seen. This is it, Maya said as they turned onto her street. The building with the green awning. Giuseppe pulled up in front of Maya's modest apartment building, and Maya felt a familiar stab of embarrassment at the contrast between Alex's obvious wealth and her circumstances. The building was clean but old, in a neighborhood that was safe but far from fashionable. Thank you so much for the ride, Maya said, reaching for Emma. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate... Wait, Alex said, his arms tightening slightly around Emma. For a moment, Maya thought he wasn't going to give her daughter back, and a flutter of panic rose in her chest. But then Alex looked up at her, and she saw something vulnerable in his expression. I know this is going to sound strange, he said slowly. But would you mind if I saw you again? Both of you? Maya's heart skipped. Alex, I'm not asking for anything complicated, Alex said quickly. Emma is special. And you're... He paused, seeming to struggle with words. I'd like to get to know you both better. Maya looked down at Emma, who was still sleeping peacefully in Alex's arms, and felt her resolve wavering. There was something about this man that called to her, something that made her want to say yes despite all the logical reasons she should say no. I don't know anything about you, Maya said softly. Your last name, your business, where you live? Then let me tell you, Alex said. Let me take you to dinner tomorrow night. Somewhere nice but not intimidating. We can talk. I can't afford a babysitter, Maya said automatically. Bring Emma, Alex said without hesitation. I'd like to spend time with both of you. Maya stared at him, trying to process what was happening. This successful, handsome man wanted to take her and her baby to dinner? It seemed too good to be true, which in her experience usually meant it was. Why? She asked bluntly. Why do you want to see us again? Alex was quiet for a long moment, looking down at Emma's sleeping face. When he spoke, his voice was so soft Maya had to strain to hear him. Because when I hold her, I remember what it feels like to hope for something good, he said. And when I look at you, I see the kind of strength I've been looking for my whole life. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. It was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever said to her, and coming from this man who seemed so controlled, so careful with his words, it hit her like a physical blow. Okay, she whispered. Dinner tomorrow. Alex's smile was brilliant. I'll pick you up at 7? 7 is perfect, Maya said, then gently took Emma from his arms. The baby stirred but didn't wake, and Maya felt the familiar weight of her daughter settle against her chest. Thank you, Alex, she said, for everything. Thank you, Alex replied, and something in his tone made her look at him questioningly. For trusting me with her. With both of you. As Maya walked toward her building, she could feel Alex watching her until she was safely inside. It wasn't until she was in her apartment, settling Emma into her crib, that she realized she had no idea what she'd just agreed to. But for the first time in months, she was looking forward to tomorrow. Maya spent the entire next day in a state of nervous anticipation that she tried to hide from Emma, who seemed to sense her mother's mood and was unusually fussy. By 6:30, Maya had changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on a simple black dress that was nice enough for dinner, but practical enough for a woman traveling with a baby. She'd spent the day trying to research Alex Romano online, but had found surprisingly little. There were a few mentions in business journals about Romano Enterprises, an import-export company, and a couple of society page photos from charity events, but nothing that gave her real insight into who he was or what his life was like. When the knock came at her door at exactly 7 o'clock, Maya's heart jumped into her throat. She opened the door to find Alex standing in the hallway, looking devastatingly handsome in a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than Maya made in a month. But what struck her most was the way his face lit up when he saw her. You look beautiful, he said, and the sincerity in his voice made her blush. Thank you, Maya said, adjusting Emma in her arms. I hope you don't mind, but she's been a little cranky today. If she gets too fussy at the restaurant, she'll be perfect, Alex said confidently, reaching out to stroke Emma's cheek. The baby immediately calmed at his touch, looking up at him with bright, interested eyes. Won't you, sweetheart? Maya watched in amazement as Emma smiled and reached for Alex, clearly remembering him from the night before. I still can't get over how she responds to you, Maya said as they walked toward the elevator. Children and animals, Alex said with a slight smile. They're good judges of character. Is that what you tell yourself? Maya asked teasingly, then immediately worried she'd overstepped. But Alex laughed, a rich sound that made her stomach flutter. Among other things, he said. The restaurant Alex had chosen was elegant but not intimidating, the kind of place that clearly catered to families. With comfortable booths and a relaxed atmosphere, Maya was relieved to see other diners with children, though none of the other babies were quite as young as Emma. Mr. Romano, the hostess said warmly as they approached. Your usual table is ready. As they were led to a corner booth that offered both privacy and a good view of the restaurant, Maya couldn't help but notice the way the staff treated Alex. There was respect there, but also something else, a deference that went beyond normal customer service. You come here often? Maya asked as they settled into the booth, Alex immediately reaching for Emma, who went to him without hesitation. It's one of my favorite places, Alex said, settling Emma comfortably in his lap. The owner is an old family friend. A waiter appeared almost immediately, greeting Alex by name and fussing over Emma with the kind of attention that suggested this wasn't the first baby he'd seen Alex with. Maya felt a stab of something that might have been jealousy, wondering about Alex's history with children. The usual, Mr. Romano? The waiter asked. Actually, let's see the menu tonight, Alex said, glancing at Maya. We're celebrating. Celebrating what? Maya asked as the waiter departed. Alex looked down at Emma, who was playing with his tie, then back at Maya. New beginnings, he said simply. They ordered dinner, Alex insisting Maya try the restaurant's signature pasta dish, and settled into conversation. Alex was an excellent listener, asking thoughtful questions about Maya's work and her life with Emma. He seemed genuinely interested in the details of her daily routine, the challenges of single motherhood, her dreams for Emma's future. What about you? Maya asked as they shared a dessert, Emma contentedly sleeping in Alex's arms. Tell me about your family. Alex's expression grew guarded. Not much to tell, he said. My parents died when I was young. I was raised by my uncle. I'm sorry, Maya said softly. That must have been difficult. It was complicated, Alex said. My uncle had very specific ideas about what my life should look like. There was something in his tone that made Maya want to ask more questions, but she sensed this was dangerous territory. Instead, she watched the way Alex's hand moved in gentle circles on Emma's back, the unconscious protectiveness in his posture. You're a natural with her, Maya observed. Alex looked down at Emma's sleeping face. She makes it easy, he said. She's perfect. She's not perfect, Maya said with a laugh. You should hear her at 3 in the morning when she's teething. I'd like to, Alex said quietly, and something in his tone made Maya look at him sharply. Alex, I know this is fast, Alex said, meeting her eyes. I know we barely know each other, but I can't stop thinking about last night, about holding her, about the way you looked when you woke up. I've never felt anything like this before. Maya's heart was racing. Like what? Like I want to protect you both, Alex said. Like I want to be part of your lives. Like maybe I could be the kind of man who deserves to have a family. The vulnerability in his voice made Maya's chest tighten. Alex, you seem like a wonderful man, but I have to think about Emma. I'm not asking you to make any decisions tonight, Alex said quickly. I'm just asking you to give me a chance. Let me show you who I am. Let me be there for both of you. Maya looked down at her daughter, sleeping so peacefully in Alex's arms, and felt something shift in her chest. Emma had never been this comfortable with anyone except Maya herself, and watching Alex with her daughter felt right in a way that defied logic. There are things about my life that are complicated, Alex said carefully, things I'll need to explain to you eventually. But I want you to know that I would never let anything hurt either of you. You and Emma would always be safe with me. The way he said it, with such quiet conviction, made Maya believe him. But it also raised questions about what kind of complications he was referring to. What kind of things? Maya asked. Alex was quiet for a long moment, his hand still moving in gentle circles on Emma's back. My business involves some difficult people, he said finally. People who don't always handle disagreements in conventional ways. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. What exactly do you do, Alex? Before Alex could answer, a man approached their table, tall, well-dressed, with the kind of predatory smile that made Maya's skin crawl. Alex Romano, the man said, his voice carrying a slight accent Maya couldn't place. Fancy seeing you here, and with such lovely company. Alex's entire demeanor changed in an instant. His body went rigid, his eyes hardening to chips of ice, and Maya could feel the sudden tension radiating from him like heat from a fire. Vincent, Alex said, his voice flat and cold. You're interrupting a private dinner. Just wanted to say hello, Vincent said, his eyes moving from Alex to Maya to Emma. Beautiful family you have here. It would be a shame if anything happened to them. The threat was subtle but unmistakable, and Maya felt her blood turn to ice. Alex's arm tightened protectively around Emma, and when he spoke, his voice carried a menace that made Maya's heart race with fear. If you so much as look at them again, Alex said quietly, I will end you. Do we understand each other? Vincent's smile widened. Perfectly. Enjoy your dinner, Alex, all of you. As Vincent walked away, Maya stared at Alex in shock. The gentle man who had been holding her daughter had transformed into someone she didn't recognize, someone dangerous. "Alex," she whispered. "What just happened? Who was that man?" Alex looked at her, and Maya saw the exact moment he realized that everything had changed. The careful facade he'd been maintaining crumbled, and she saw the truth in his eyes. "Maya," he said quietly, "there's something I need to tell you." The ride back to Maya's apartment was silent except for Emma's soft breathing. Alex held the baby while Maya sat as far away from him as possible in the back seat, her mind reeling from what had just happened at the restaurant. After Vincent's departure, Alex had quietly asked for the check and suggested they leave. He'd been gentle with Emma, solicitous of Maya's comfort, but there had been an undercurrent of tension that made Maya's skin crawl. She'd seen the way other diners had looked at their table after Vincent's visit, some with fear, others with recognition. Now, as Giuseppe navigated the familiar streets toward her neighborhood, Maya tried to process what she'd learned. Alex Romano wasn't just a businessman. The way Vincent had spoken to him, the threat in his voice when he'd mentioned Emma and Maya, the immediate deference of the restaurant staff, it all pointed to something much more dangerous than import-export. "Maya," Alex said softly as they pulled up in front of her building. "Please let me explain." "Explain what?" Maya asked, her voice sharper than she'd intended. "Explain why a stranger just threatened my daughter? Explain why you went from being gentle to looking like you could kill someone with your bare hands." Alex winced. "Because I could," he said quietly. "And I would if anyone tried to hurt either of you." Maya stared at him, and in that moment, she saw the truth written clearly across his face. "You're not just a businessman," she said. "Are you?" Alex looked down at Emma, who was still sleeping peacefully in his arms, oblivious to the tension surrounding her. "No," he said finally. "I'm not. What are you?" Maya asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Alex was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "My family. We're what people call the Mafia. I'm the head of the Romano family." Maya felt the world tilt around her. "The Mafia," she repeated numbly. "Yes. And that man, Vincent, is from a rival family," Alex said. "One that's been trying to move in on our territory. His threat tonight was meant to send a message." Maya's hands were shaking. "A message about what?" "About you and Emma," Alex said, his voice heavy with regret. "About the fact that I care about you both, which makes you potential targets." The full implications of what he was saying hit Maya like a physical blow. By associating with Alex, by letting him into their lives, she had potentially put Emma in danger. Her daughter, her innocent, perfect daughter, was now on the radar of people who made threats in restaurants and settled disputes with violence. "I need to go inside," Maya said, reaching for Emma. "I need to think." Alex hesitated before handing Emma over. "Maya, please." "I need time," Maya said firmly. "I need to process this." Alex nodded reluctantly. "I understand. But Maya, I meant what I said. I will never let anyone hurt either of you. I'll have men watching your building, making sure you're safe." "No," Maya said quickly. "No men watching us. I don't want any part of this world near my daughter." "Maya?" "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Maya said, her voice rising slightly before she caught herself and lowered it, mindful of Emma. "I understand that I let a stranger into our lives, and now my daughter is in danger because of it." Alex looked like she'd slapped him. "It's not like that, isn't it?" Maya asked. "That man knew who I was, Alex. He knew about Emma. How is that possible unless being with you has already made us targets?" Alex had no answer for that, because they both knew she was right. Maya got out of the car and walked toward her building without looking back, but she could feel Alex watching her until she was safely inside. It wasn't until she was in her apartment, with the door locked and Emma settled in her crib, that she allowed herself to break down. She cried for the fantasy she'd allowed herself to believe in, the idea that a man like Alex could be part of their simple, safe life. She cried for the fear that was now a constant presence in her chest, the knowledge that somewhere out there, dangerous people knew her name and her daughter's face. And she cried for the loss of something that had felt like hope for the first time in months. But mostly, she cried because despite everything, despite the danger, despite the lies, despite the impossibility of it all, she was already half in love with Alex Romano. The next morning brought a delivery that made Maya's heart race with panic. A massive bouquet of white roses sat outside her apartment door, along with a small wrapped package. Maya looked up and down the hallway before quickly bringing both inside. The card with the flowers was simple. "I'm sorry." The package contained a small jewelry box, and inside was a delicate gold necklace with a pendant in the shape of a guardian angel. The accompanying note read, "For Emma, to keep her safe when I can't be there." Maya sank onto her couch, holding the necklace and fighting back tears. Even now, even after everything, Alex was thinking about Emma's safety. The gesture was beautiful and heartbreaking and completely inappropriate given the circumstances. Her phone rang, and Maya's heart jumped when she saw Alex's name on the screen. She let it go to voicemail, then immediately played the message. "Maya, it's Alex. I know you need time, and I respect that. But please let me explain everything. Let me tell you about my world, about the precautions we can take to keep you and Emma safe. I know I should have told you the truth from the beginning, but I was selfish. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could be just a man, not a Romano. You and Emma made me feel human again. Please don't let Vincent's threats scare you away from something that could be beautiful. Call me when you're ready to listen." Maya played the message 3 times, hearing the pain and desperation in Alex's voice. She wanted to call him back, wanted to hear his explanations and believe that somehow they could make this work. But every time she looked at Emma, she remembered Vincent's cold smile and the casual way he'd threatened her daughter. That afternoon, Maya was getting ready for work when she noticed a black car parked across the street from her building. The same car was there when she left for the hospital, and it followed her at a discreet distance until she was safely inside. Alex was having her watched, despite her explicit request that he not do so. Maya felt a surge of anger mixed with something that might have been relief. She was furious that he'd ignored her wishes, but she couldn't deny that knowing someone was watching out for them made her feel safer. Her phone buzzed with a text. "I know you're angry about the security detail, but I won't apologize for keeping you safe. When you're ready to talk, I'll be waiting." Maya stared at the message for a long time before deleting it without responding. But she kept the angel necklace in her pocket. And when Emma was fussy during her break at work, Maya found herself touching the pendant and thinking about the way Alex had held her daughter, the tenderness in his voice when he'd called Emma perfect. Despite everything, despite the danger and the lies and the impossibility of it all, Maya was beginning to realize that Alex Romano had become more than just a chance encounter on a subway train. He'd become a choice she was going to have to make. 3 weeks passed before Maya finally called Alex back. 3 weeks of black cars following her to and from work, of flowers appearing at her door every few days, of voicemails that grew increasingly desperate as Alex begged for just 5 minutes to explain. 3 weeks of Emma fussing every evening, as if she sensed something was missing from their routine. 3 weeks of Maya lying awake at night, fingering the angel pendant and remembering the way Alex had looked at her daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. The call that finally broke. Maya's resolve came from her landlord. "Maya, I'm sorry, but I can't give you any more extensions," Mr. Peterson said, his voice genuinely regretful. "The rent is 3 weeks overdue and I have my own bills to pay. I need payment by Friday or I'll have to start eviction proceedings." Maya hung up the phone and looked around her small apartment, the only home Emma had ever known. She'd been picking up extra shifts at the hospital, But Emma's daycare costs had gone up, and her mother's medical bills were mounting. No matter how hard she worked, she couldn't seem to get ahead. That night, as she sat on her couch with Emma sleeping in her arms, Maya finally admitted to herself what she'd been trying to deny for 3 weeks. She missed Alex. Not just his help or his protection, but him. The way he'd looked at her like she was something precious. The way he'd held Emma like she was his own daughter. The way he'd made Maya feel like she wasn't facing the world alone. She picked up her phone and dialed his number before she could lose her nerve. Alex answered on the first ring. "Maya, hi," she said softly. I think I'm ready to listen." There was a long pause, and when Alex spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you. Can I come over?" "Yes," Maya said. "But Alex, Emma's sleeping and I don't want to wake her." "I'll be quiet," Alex promised. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Alex arrived, he looked like he hadn't been sleeping well. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his usually perfect appearance was slightly disheveled. But when he saw Maya, his face lit up with such relief and joy that Maya felt her heart clench. "Thank you for calling," he said softly as she let him into the apartment. "I missed you," Maya admitted. Then immediately felt foolish for the confession. Alex's eyes softened. "I missed you too. Both of you." "How is she?" "She's been fussy," Maya said. "I think she misses you too." They sat on Maya's small couch, careful to keep their voices low so they wouldn't wake Emma. Alex looked around the modest apartment, taking in the baby toys scattered on the floor, the stack of medical bills on the coffee table, the general air of someone trying to make ends meet. "Tell me about your world," Maya said without preamble. "Tell me what being with you would really mean." Alex was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "My family has been in this business for 4 generations, he said finally. "We're not the stereotypical mafia you see in movies. We don't deal drugs, we don't hurt innocent people, and we have strict codes about involving families in business disputes." "But you do hurt people," Maya said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes," Alex said honestly. "When necessary. When they threaten what's mine or break agreements that put people at risk." Maya absorbed this. "And Vincent? The man from the restaurant? His family has been trying to muscle in on our territory," Alex explained. "They've been using violence against our legitimate business partners, threatening people who have nothing to do with our world. Vincent's threat against you and Emma was meant to make me back down." "Will it?" Maya asked. Alex's eyes hardened. "No, it will make me end this conflict once and for all." The quiet menace in his voice should have frightened Maya, but instead she felt oddly reassured. This was a man who would protect what he cared about, no matter the cost. "What would it mean for Emma and me?" Maya asked. If we tried to make this work?" "It would mean you'd never have to worry about money again," Alex said. "It would mean Emma would have the best of everything. Education, opportunities, protection. It would mean you'd both be part of my family, and my family protects its own." "And the danger?" "There's always some risk in my world," Alex admitted. "But you'd have the best security money can buy. And Maya, I need you to understand something. The moment Vincent threatened you and Emma, you became part of this whether we're together or not. At least if you're with me, I can protect you properly." Maya felt a chill at his words, but she knew he was right. She'd seen the black cars, knew that Alex's enemies already saw her as a potential weakness to exploit. "There's something else," Maya said quietly. "Something I need to tell you." Alex waited, his attention completely focused on her. "I'm being evicted," Maya said, the words coming out in a rush. "I can't make rent, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Emma and I might be homeless by the end of the week." Alex's expression darkened. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I don't want your money," Maya said. "I don't want to be some charity case you're helping out of pity." "Pity?" Alex repeated, his voice incredulous. "Maya, you think this is about pity?" Before Maya could respond, Alex moved closer to her on the couch, his hands framing her face with infinite gentleness. "I'm in love with you," he said softly. "I'm in love with your strength, your dedication to Emma, the way you fell asleep on my shoulder because you were too exhausted to be afraid. I'm in love with the way you look at me like I could be a good man, despite everything you know about my world." Maya's breath caught. "Alex, and I'm in love with Emma," Alex continued. "I know she's not mine biologically, but when I hold her, when she smiles at me, I feel like I could be the father she deserves." "I want to be the father she deserves." Tears were streaming down Maya's face now. "You can't just say things like that. Why not if they're true?" Alex asked. "Maya, I want to take care of you both. Not because I pity you, but because you're mine. You became mine the moment you fell asleep in my arms, and Emma became mine the moment she smiled at me." "This is crazy," Maya whispered. "We barely know each other." "Then let's get to know each other," Alex said. "Move in with me. Let me show you what our life could be like. Let me prove to you that I can be the man you and Emma need." Maya stared at him, her heart racing. Everything logical in her mind was screaming that this was too fast, too dangerous, too good to be true. But when she looked into Alex's eyes, she saw something that made her want to take the leap. She saw love. Real, honest, overwhelming love. "Okay," she whispered. Alex's smile was brilliant. "Okay, okay," Maya said more firmly. "But I have conditions. Anything." "I want to keep working," Maya said. "Maybe not as many hours, but I need to feel like I'm contributing something. Done. And I want to know everything about your business," Maya continued. "No more secrets, no more surprises. If I'm going to be part of this world, I need to understand it." "Agreed." "And Emma comes first," Maya said. "Always. If there's ever a choice between your business and her safety, Emma comes first," Alex said without hesitation. "Always." Maya looked toward Emma's room, where her daughter was sleeping peacefully, unaware that her life was about to change completely. "When?" Maya asked. "Now," Alex said. "Tonight. I'll have people pack your things while you and Emma sleep at my place. By tomorrow morning, you'll never have to worry about rent or bills or being alone again." It was overwhelming, the speed of it all, but Maya found herself nodding. "Okay." Alex pulled her into his arms then, holding her like she was something precious and fragile. "Thank you," he whispered against her hair. "Thank you for trusting me with both of you." As Maya melted into his embrace, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Real, genuine hope for a future that included love and security, and a father for Emma who would cherish her. It was terrifying and wonderful and completely insane. But as Alex held her, as she breathed in his familiar scent and felt the solid warmth of his body against hers, Maya knew she was making the right choice. For the first time since Emma was born, Maya wasn't facing the world alone. And when Emma woke up an hour later and immediately reached for Alex with a delighted squeal, Maya knew her daughter approved of their new beginning too. 6 months later, Maya stood in the garden of Alex's estate, watching her husband, they'd married in a small ceremony 3 months earlier, push Emma on the swing set he'd had installed just for her. Emma's delighted laughter filled the air, and Alex's face was soft with the kind of joy Maya had never thought possible for a man in his position. "Higher, Daddy," Emma called out, her vocabulary having exploded since Alex came into their lives. "Higher?" Alex asked with mock concern. "Are you sure you're brave enough for higher?" Emma's response was a giggle that made both adults smile. Maya touched the angel pendant at her throat. She wore it every day now, and marveled at how much their lives had changed. Alex had been true to his word about everything. Maya worked part-time at a clinic Alex funded. Emma had the best of everything. And their security was so comprehensive that Maya rarely even thought about the dangers of Alex's world anymore. More importantly, Alex had proven every day that his love for them was real. He was patient with Emma's tantrums, gentle with Maya's fears, and completely devoted to their little family. "Mama," Emma called out, spotting Maya watching them. "Come push me too." Maya walked over to join them, and Alex immediately wrapped his free arm around her waist, pulling her close. "Happy?" he asked softly. Maya looked at Emma, safe and loved and laughing with pure joy, then at Alex, whose eyes held all the warmth and devotion she'd ever dreamed of. "Happy," she confirmed. And as Alex leaned down to kiss her while Emma giggled in the background, Maya knew that sometimes the most unexpected encounters led to the most beautiful destinations. Their love story had begun with exhaustion and a chance meeting on a subway train, but it had grown into something neither of them had dared to hope for. A real family, built on love, trust, and the unshakable belief that some things were worth any risk. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more incredible tales of unexpected love and second chances. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. What did you think of Maya and Alex's journey? Sometimes love finds us in the most unexpected places, and sometimes taking a leap of faith leads to everything we never knew we needed. Share your thoughts in the comments below.